Big ending.
Big ending.
The great JJ Voss is with us this week.
Hey, it's great to be here.
And thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. Murray McCormick, who doesn't play any musical instruments or sing,
or to
his credit.
I'm just proud to be part of the chorus, I guess would be the best thing.
You don't have anything you'd like to add as far as musical input?
I like music.
Yodeling or
yodeling. No. I think my musical talents are just about limited to what I can't do, and I know I can't sing and I can't play any instruments.
I can't even hum properly. We're totally out of our league today, JJ.
We'll test these theories because that was the rehearsal. At the end of the podcast, you guys are going to sing it out with me.
Oh, right.
We may quietly slink out of the room.
It's kind of funny because now I actually know the name of the composer compared to our regular song.
We usually have the Leader Post Philharmonic Orchestra performing the theme. We've fired them in a most heartless fashion. There's tears, there's oboes and piccolos and bassoons shattered all over the parking lot, along with dreams.
Unfortunately,
careers.
It's a young man's game.
It is a young man's game. So no Beethoven. We've got JJ. Yes. And I first met JJ. I think it was in 2006, and this is when the Riders practiced at the old grass field.
Yes.
And I pulled up for practice, and JJ was there with a dog.
Yeah. Oh, you remember my dog?
I remember your dog, and we got chatting, and
I named him Reaper because he was
Reggie Hunt.
He was watching Reggie do the ladder, and he was chasing outside the fence. He was chasing Reggie as he's doing that, so that's where I named him Reaper.
That was a really cool conversation, and I'm being a dog lover, I thought that was really interesting. And this is the Leader Post Rider Rumblings video podcast, by the way. And each week when we're scheduling guests, I try and think of something cool, something different. And I was thinking a few weeks ago, how could we incorporate a musician into this? Who's a Rider fan who just loves music, or vice versa? And then it was just instant. JJ.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for thinking of me.
Thanks so much for doing this. We can't top the intro until we do the extra, which will also be JJ.
And Rob's a bit of a jazz fan.
I'm a jazz fan.
Bit. So this is a whole other genre that he probably hasn't even opened up on his iTunes page.
I was mentioned to Rob when we were communicating via email. He mentioned jazz, and I said, well, as far as hick kids go, the closest I could do is maybe a little bit of Western swing.
That'd be fine?
Does that kind of qualify as jazz?
Yeah, I can settle for
the outskirts.
It has an ending though, Western swing. So it's an inside joke for
it also gives me an opportunity to use the word plectrist in a podcast.
Oh, do you use that in public?
Plectrist is a great word.
Well, fill me in.
Yeah. It refers to someone who plays a guitar.
I know that this is a plectrum, which is a guitar pick.
So now you're a plectrist.
Ooh. Well, so I will remember that one.
Wow.
Yeah. So Wes Montgomery, Jim Hall, Pat Martino, JJ Voss, great plectrists of our time.
I was listening to JJ play that song, thinking, man, he couldn't have played that 4 weeks ago, eh? Because we didn't have Rider Pride back then.
Yeah, but pride rhymes with slide, don't it?
True, yeah. And now they got to stem the tide because they're rolling. Yeah.
Now we're writing songs.
Yeah, that whole song could be our whole thing.
Could you tell us a bit about how people know so much about your music. You seem to be, this is my snap judgment from 12 years ago. You're a passionate football fan as well as a passionate musician. How's that marriage worked?
Well, I guess I've kind of divorced in a way in the last few years. I've been busy traveling, and I was a long-time season ticket holder. So when my career got busy, I had to make it my priority. So I'm not able to hold season tickets, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But I make it to whichever games I can now. But
yeah, I guess you'd have way more road trips than they do.
Well, when times are good, when things are busy, for sure.
I see it's a part of our Rider hat, so they've done that Rider trip stuff?
No, actually, I was just in Puerto Vallarta, and the guy because I worked for the Riders for a couple seasons with the Maxtron crew, because I do audio work as well. And at the time, I think it was like a 40% discount on Rider wear. So I don't own any clothes that don't have Rider emblems on them. Yeah. So I was on the beach in Puerto Vallarta, and like I said, everything I own is Riders. And the guy saw it, and he goes, I'll be back. And he came back, and he had all these funky black hat, different colors. I have orange one, and I got a few black ones. I think I bought 4 or 5 of them.
Good for you. That's kind of cool.
When you look out in crowds and you're performing in Saskatchewan, is it I guess it wouldn't be unusual to see Rider jerseys and Rider hats among
fairly
the
common.
faithful.
Yeah, fairly common. Probably the neatest story, and I don't know, it's almost masochistic, but I went to New York City for the first time in 2009, and I was there in January. I guess it would have been January 2010. And I'm walking around in Times Square, and I had my big Rider parka, but it was black with just the little emblem on the breast pocket. And so I'm walking around and, wide-eyed prairie boy looking at all the sights, and I don't know, I heard somebody say something about 13 or something about learning how to count. And I'm walking and I just stopped and I'm like, it took a second for it to register, and I turned around, this guy was wearing an NFL jacket and he was grinning. And I just looked at him and shook my head and had to laugh.
So what do you make of the Rough Riders as you follow them today, to the extent that you actively can, considering you have a career to tend to?
I am really encouraged, like all of us, with this last stretch of games where I guess not only are they winning, but what I'm seeing is some of this new generation of recruits that we've been promised for a few years are starting to show up. We're starting to see people, the Toby Antigua, Nick Marshall, these players. We were promised that this new regime was going to come in and be a recruiting powerhouse. And in my estimation, in the last 3 years, really our only standout players have been free agent signings. So this is, for my money, pretty exciting.
Yeah, because you can't see it building, can't you? I mean, for a couple of years, I don't think the methodology was considerably different than it was when Brendan Taman was here. There were players claimed from other teams that were free agents, but it didn't seem like they were growing in terms of finding their own people. And that has sure changed this year.
It seemed like just a couple months ago we were dealing with that. It's just been a turnaround. The receivers like Shaq Evans and Jordan Williams-Lambert and Kyran Moore have all stepped up. All these young guys that I saw at the minicamp who were such standouts. And I used to see these minicamp guys, and you never saw them play. And they just give Jones credit for those minicamps and all the money they spent to bring in these players.
And I had no problem with general managers signing free agents, because I had no problem with that. I guess what I had the problem with was everybody. Brendan Taman got a bad rap because he was given the mandate to win a Grey Cup, because we had a home Grey Cup in 2013, and it was like, look, man, your job is to win the Grey Cup, so he did. Yeah. And then people in hindsight were really hard on him for that, which now when Jones came in, he went and he scorched the earth. He got rid of everybody, which, okay, that was a pretty ballsy move, but then where's the proof? And it's now year 3 that we're starting to see that come to fruition, which is great. It's just we don't tend to be that patient here.
You even see the guys he got from other teams like Charleston Hughes and Zach Collaros. Even Willie Jefferson came from the Eskimos. Yeah. Those guys have proven to be quality players, and he's done that. So they've mixed the free agents and the trades and stuff in very nicely to create this team that's won 4 in a row. That boy, as I said before, 4 in a row did not appear possible.
Sorry, Mark.
But now they are, and now they're going into the Rob and I've called the cupcake part of the schedule of 3 games against East Division teams.
That's always the most dangerous for us, though. Oh, isn't it?
And plus, you talk about at the beginning of the season, part of the reason for their woes is they couldn't handle the East Division teams. They did beat Hamilton twice, but Ottawa spanked them, and still, I guess it's not to be so surprised that Montreal won back then, because now Montreal's actually.
But they were still the only team to lose to Montreal in a calendar year.
Yeah,
so that's quite a feat. But they've certainly spun out of that.
Still not offense. The offense is still
that for me is the acid test. And I mean, you can listen to. I mean, Jones is a defensive coach, and his philosophy is defensive. The only thing I'm disappointed on is it doesn't seem like he doesn't seem to be publicly anyhow. He's not coming out and saying, our offense has to pick up the pace a little bit. Before the last game, he said something to after the first Winnipeg game. He goes, our defense has to tighten up a little bit. I'm like, what?
Yeah. But what can he come out and say in the real world? Not very often a guy like Matt Nichols says, the booze hurt my feeling, that kind of thing. He can't come out and say the offense has got to do better, because we'd love it. We'd absolutely love it if he did say that.
Right.
But it almost goes without saying. I mean,
you don't have
this
to
is a team that has 14 offensive touchdowns and 10 touchdowns when the offense isn't on the field. Yeah. They could end up with one of the 5 lowest offensive touchdown totals in franchise history.
Well, when your place kicker is your offensive MVP of the season so far, there's something. I hope it's not going to cut it in the playoffs. It's working now, but when we get into the playoffs, unless your offense can score fast and respond, we're going to be sitting on the sidelines watching the Grey Cup.
Well, I watched that Edmonton-Calgary game on Saturday, and I thought, okay, what if Edmonton or Calgary have one of those games against Saskatchewan in the playoffs? And it's a different beast when you're facing the Rider defense, but Calgary's got a formidable defense, and Edmonton still lit them up. So what if Edmonton has one of those days against a very good defense? Can the Rough Riders counter? They don't have a Bo Levi Mitchell. They don't have that personnel, depleted as it is with injuries, to counter. And so at some point, you're going to need a CFL caliber offense out of this offense. At least it would stand to reason. They've proven me wrong the last 4 games, though.
Isn't it kind of fun to be able to even talk about that, sort of speculate they're going to be that far ahead, considering the many places they were earlier this season that we're writing them off, and now we're talking about what their offense has to do in the playoffs, which is kind of a big step forward.
It's a turnaround, for sure.
It's a turnaround, and I think I think that game in Winnipeg, I was reading, pretty well clinched them a playoff spot. I'm thinking.
You think so?
Mathematically, there's all sorts of stuff. Just like people were saying that Toronto's out of the playoffs. Well, no team's out of the playoffs in the East Division.
But I mean, there's teams with 3 wins, and the Riders have 7. So it would take quite the same thing would have to happen to them that happened to the Leader Post Philharmonic Orchestra this morning when I shot them for the Riders to miss the playoffs.
But that being said, that also goes back to our quarterback situation, which I'm cheering for Zach Collaros. I want things to work out for him because I really like him. I think he's a great quarterback. But with his injury history and with how it started out this year, I don't know. It's that first concussion that he sustained, it was like a strong gust of wind went by him and he was down. And then this was a pretty solid hit that he took in this last game, but we're one hit away from our offense being, and I like Brandon Bridge as well. I thought when he was given the opportunity last year to play with his instincts and to run around and play like a young quarterback, he delivered. But this year they tried to make him a systems quarterback off the bat. And that just wasn't working. So if we have to go back to that, our season could turn around real quick again.
But Collaros, and that his head hit the turf a lot harder than I thought. From my angle where I didn't see, I couldn't really see. But it was a pretty good clunk on the old turf. So I was surprised when I heard he's gone through all the protocols and he's fine. And he's going to be fine, I guess. But it is, you watch every series and every downs with the fingers crossed and fingers crossed, and you hope that Brandon Bridge. But same token, that Brandon Bridge come in and guided them to 2 field goals and gets the big win, which is a little bit overlooked in this. But
he did what he had to do. He didn't turn the ball over and move the ball smartly.
I like that he ran out. I think his first play from scrimmage, he rolled out, and I think that's his game. It gives him a chance. It puts the defense, they can't pin their ears back and come after him, and it gives him a chance to see the field.
It almost seems though that they've tried to extract from him what was beneficial for them last year. Last year he threw 10 touchdown passes as a backup quarterback. I'll be surprised if the Riders team leader has 10 touchdown passes this season. And he'd come in, and it's a bit different sometimes when you're coming in as a backup, and you're generally, if it's not because of injury, you're coming in, the team's down, you have to open it up a bit, and some of the rules don't apply when you have to make things happen right away. He started some games this year, and I think the expectations are different of a starter. But if you can just get the Brandon Bridge back, that if you can use him in a fashion that accentuates his many talents, as opposed to, as you said, trying to make him a system quarterback.
From what I've seen, they handcuffed him.
Yeah, they did.
You're coming in and you're doing, this is our system and you're running it. And I don't know, it didn't work.
Well, the game against Calgary, the second one, this is a guy with one of the strongest arms in the league, and the average pass downfield was 4.73 yards. I mean, he could throw that left-handed or behind his back.
Still has that awkward motion, though.
Yeah.
Like a couple of his passes, he threw those kind of sidearm, sign-winged them, but problem is, to get that scenario to Brandon Bridge coming in more, Zach Collaros has to be out. So it's not really a great situation the Riders are in, because I think the offense is starting to work under Zach, and I think it's and live with it. 200 yards, one or two touchdown passes a game.
So which team? Sorry.
So I maybe live with the Zach Collaros we got in that kind of offense they have, and not try to push it and ride those special teams and defense to all the way as far as they can.
That's where I feel the offensive coaching is coming up short. Yeah. And that when the coaches aren't recognizing the strengths of their players and playing to them, if they could have a different type of offense or play to his skill sets when Bridge comes in. Okay, this guy has a gun, and he's not a technician at this point of his career yet, so let's roll him out. Let's get him playing his game. And when they went away from that, was that a concerted effort in the offseason? Because last year, Kevin Glenn is your last year here. He's your pure pocket passer. And when he wasn't having success last year, Bridge would come in and he'd play his style of football, and it worked.
I think it was more in a little defense of Stephen McAdoo, the offensive coordinator. He was playing with what he had. That's what he felt comfortable calling. And I know it's not very exciting, and it wasn't very effective, but that's what Stephen McAdoo believed in. Now, since Zach Collaros at quarterback, we've seen longer passes. We've seen more of an offense. And I think Zach Collaros can't. Doesn't mean if Brandon Bridge comes back, they're not going to revert to that kind of boring, conservative, oh my God, this is a horrible way to watch football. But
it just had shades of Marcel Belfait all over again.
Although I don't even recall Marcel's hitch screen being intercepted for a touchdown.
No, it was, man.
And there were 4,000 of them on the season.
Right. The one thing in Winnipeg, the one thing about the Winnipeg, besides its outdoor press box, which is an interesting world, they close the windows after, is you have the best sight lines in the league because you're looking down the field and you can see what's going on. And you could see, what's his name, who got the pick? You can remember his name from Winnipeg. Gator. The Gator. You can see the Gator getting ready to feast because he just, I went, oh no, that's not going to be good. And you could just see, and overlooked. That was Rob Bag's first appearance on the field too.
It was that right?
With the trips. So he was a funny, because I was rating Rob Bag funny makes his first appearance on Twitter, and I looked up. I think I'll just delete that. We'll leave Rob Bag's first appearance. Will go down.
Well, that defensive back, he jumped that pattern before Collaros even had. Yeah, before even Collaros called to play, I think.
Well, he'd blown up. They did that. They did a behind the line of scrimmage pass to Moore. I think it was the previous series, and it got blown up by Gator and by Brandon Alexander. A bit of a different play because the receiver was by himself on the right as opposed to having three blockers in front of him, but it was the same lateral pass or side, pass the side, same type of pass to the receiver, and it got blown up the first time.
He was definitely reading our offense very well.
And that doesn't take a lot, but they tried it once, it didn't work, so they tried a variation of it, and it was really even less successful than the first one.
The sightline from Winnipeg also gave me a really good angle on watching Jeff Heck come in and blow up Zach Collaros on that shot.
And I'm sure he liked that, huh?
And it's reminiscent of 14. And I know it was kind of about that too. Similar part of the field. I don't remember the exact yardage, but it was very similar when, of course, the play was blown down and the guy came in and blew up Zach during Grant's elbow.
I thought Bryant Turner.
That's what I thought. It's kind of, here goes the whole season, boom, right there in one play. And I think it's about the same part of the field. I know you have a better memory.
Going in the same direction.
So that was...
It was in the third quarter with Darian.
Yeah. I think someone beside me here say, not a very nice word before. And I had enough time to say that before Heck could complete the play. So it was a pretty blatantly... And he's supposedly fine. We'll see what happens today.
What do you do there, though? I mean, do you wait another week to make sure? With something as delicate as a concussion, and you nobody still knows everything about the effects it may have. Do you take another week as a precaution to make sure?
I think if he's fine, he's fine. I trust, and I trust in the doctors. The doctors aren't going to let him go out there, and I think Zach knows his own mind enough that he's not going to be able to push himself. And if he's fine, he's fine. Play him. There's no.
My gut feeling is when it comes to that type of injury and his history of it now, he's kind of getting into the Dave Dickinson territory where...
Well, yeah, I know. I do think that Buck Pierce...
Where it could be precaution. I don't think the head injury thing is a precaution. Like, I don't think you can take precaution. I think it's at the point now where if he gets smacked, that's going to be it.
It's each one, and I don't pretend to be an expert on these things, but I mean, each one... You're likely more susceptible to it. And remember, earlier this year, he got hurt in the preseason game and didn't tell anybody. It's indicative of how much he wants to play. And if that same attitude prevails now, and we don't know that as we discuss this, but if he's that determined again, do you almost have to protect Zach Collaros from himself and give it another week, give it another 2 weeks, make sure? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
I just think it's so tight. I know you can't put the game ahead of the guy's health.
It's an Ottawa game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's one of those things. Do you put the guy's health ahead of what the team can do? But if the doctors clear him to play, he's cleared to play. And I think that's what you go by.
I guess you have to, pretty much.
Yeah. We've said unkind things about the offense. I think we'd be remiss if not referencing the running game and Tre Mason and the way he performed. That was a tremendous rushing performance by Mason.
I will say I think kind of unexpected because we kind of thought Thigpen would get more of the offense, but that's the type of game that he can play that kind of power game. It also makes you look forward to the bad weather. What he can do in bad weather now that you have a running back that maybe Jerome Messam could have pounded. But he had big holes and stuff. One thing he's not the most outgoing interview in the league. He's kind of shy, so it doesn't really get his personality across. I don't know if fans are going to get to know him through the media, but boy, that was an incredible performance. When was the last time we had a 100-yard rusher?
With Marcus Thigpen in the East semifinal in Ottawa.
And that was pretty impressive too. But I think most of Mason's yards were shorter yardage.
There were a couple carries of 10 yards or more, but a lot of it was those 6, 7, 8 yard chunks that chewed up yardage, chewed up the clock time.
It's one of those 100-yard games. Yeah, sorry, and you're going, all of a sudden he's got 100 yards.
Yeah. Well, I think Thigpen is more explosive, and Jones does have a philosophy. He wants to save. He platoons pretty much all the positions to try to keep everybody fresh for the end of the year. So I think Thigpen's older, and so I'm guessing that's why they haven't ridden him more. But it is good to see that Mason came along and that he is a viable option to go to as well.
Look, I keep looking at Thigpen as someone the offense can use more, and he's had some big plays this year. But I mean, this is someone he can play receiver, he can play defensive back. He's an explosive player, and their receiving core isn't that good. I don't know why they aren't using Thigpen a little bit like Ronnie used to use Bobby Thompson or Silas McKinney or they used to use Mike Saunders here. If he's not carrying the ball in the backfield, why don't you use Marcus Thigpen in ways where he can blow up a defense and you can still have Tre Mason in there? I think they can be complementary players as opposed to if he's in, he's not in.
I think they can use them together.
That's right.
Go ahead.
That'd be a ratio issue. We have to look at that.
Well, just take out one of the unproductive. If you put Marcus Thigpen in for Shaq Evans, so what?
Yeah.
So now Shaq Evans gets 150 yards this weekend.
You don't feel our receiving core is as strong as it used to be or could be?
No, I mean, you look at they don't have a touchdown from a wide receiver yet this year. We're 11 games into a year and they're into a season, and the wide receivers have 0 touchdowns. They get virtually nothing from Josh Stanford. Shaq Evans doesn't have a touchdown yet. Jordan Williams-Lambert has been tremendous. Naaman Roosevelt, it doesn't have the numbers that he used to have.
But that's what I mean. I guess my critique, I think, is on the offensive coordinator and the design of the plays. It doesn't feel like they're making that a priority.
It doesn't.
To me. To go, because they're not throwing into the end zone. They're not going after the intermediate passes, the 20 to 30 yard passes. They're not doing that. It's just these dink and dunk prairie offense.
Yeah, maybe if they'd had
a lot of Marcel Belfay illusions.
did they once have an explosive wide receiver who could possibly break open a game on the roster? Hey, is it time? Is it time?
I was going to time this week's podcast, and I forgot to do it. I was going to put the stopwatch on my phone and just time how long it took to mention
Duron Carter. Ding, 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 ding. Duron Carter.
This is a record. It's the longest it's taken. So
and I kind of forced it in there. But what the heck? You got to force some things in there if you're going to be offensive and get ahead of the game and those kind of things. You got to.
Very well done.
Thank you.
We got it in just in time. We should give JJ the opportunity to talk about what's going on outside of football with his career. Anything you would like to discuss as far as upcoming performances, upcoming releases?
I've got a run of shows between now and New Year's, just mainly around town. I'm playing a lot of solo acoustic shows by myself. And
we noticed.
Yeah. Yes. So, pubs and restaurants around town. I'm going in the studio next week to cut the majority of my next album. And over the course of the next 6 months through winter, I'm going to be putting it all together and getting a promotional push ready and then get back out on the road next year.
Why acoustic?
It's kind of where the markets went. There's very, very few places to play with a full band anymore.
Really?
Yeah, budgets are cut and people aren't going to those types of things anymore. The days of the nightclub with bands is almost a thing of the past. There's one venue in town called
the Revival Room.
Yeah, the Revival. That's the one standout that's left, and people are taking to that. I'm going to be playing there in November.
Okay.
November the 16th with the full band. So I'm excited about that. So it's just, there's a lot of overhead to put a band together of 5 people and go out and play. Everybody needs to get paid, and these days the money isn't necessarily there.
What has happened there? I love music. I love going to see live music, whatever genre it is. It's nice to be able to.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few different reasons. One of them is if you look at, you got your smartphone in your hand, you got the whole world of entertainment in the palm of your hand, or else at home you have 70-inch TV on the wall. Sometimes it's hard to, when you're sitting at home and you can go get a beer from the fridge and turn on, find one of your favorite band's live concert and watch it on a great big TV. People aren't necessarily jumping up and going out to spend.
Yep.
And then also, it's not like it used to. We used to take a lot more chances with driving after drinking, and that happened people don't do that anymore, which is a great thing. Yeah. But it also affects how people's habits.
I like the Revival. I looked at their schedule and they had some good local bands there, like Method to Madness and those kind of guys. And those are fun bands to go to. So maybe a little plug for them. Go there, and if you like to dance and have some fun, they played the Memorial Cup and they were awesome.
Live music. I mean, I've got so much stuff on this thing, but
it's just jazz. It's not real music.
Don't be mean.
It's not real music.
But there's even a jazz player named JJ Johnson, a trombonist, and there's nothing like live music. You can listen to all the recordings you want with the best sound systems you can find. You're not going to replicate the sound that you get.
No, there's an energy transfer at a live show, and it's the musicians giving the energy, and when the crowd's giving it back, there's this transfer that you'll never ever. Live music will never die. It's just you have to get creative, and who knows? It's cyclical. Let's hope things will turn around and it becomes viable again.
It's like going to a football game. You can watch it on TV.
Yeah, that's right.
And really can. It's some joy. You gotta love it. The TV does it so well, but it's going to an actual football game, like being in Winnipeg, is for the investors group feel the place is packed, the weather's kind of miserable, the noise is there. It's just another experience. And I think more as you talked about the big screen TV, people are getting away from that, and they're getting away from what teams can do for our home game and stuff. Like, and the Riders do it very well. So maybe go.
Yeah, the experience.
The experience is still so cool.
May we prevail upon your good nature and your musicality to request one more live performance as we signal an end to this podcast.
And what's that thing he's using again to flick his guitar with? What do you call it?
That's a plectrum.
And what do you call him?
He's a plectrist.
A plectrist. I bet you never heard about that.
I haven't.
Anybody ever call you a plectrist at the pump?
No. They call me a lot of things, but never that.
For Murray McCormick, I'm Rob Vanstone, and now he's going to do some plectring for us. The great JJ Voss, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, talking about Rider football for 45 minutes, I'd be remiss not to sing a song about prides. Dirt all day on a worn out plow, making the bills by the sweat of his brow, but he sleeps real good when he lays down at night. And now he don't make much, so he lives real lean. His hands are dirty, but the money's clean, and there's something about standing on your own. Well, this ain't no story about chasing dreams. Ain't about reaching for the big brass ring. It's about working for what you need. And it's a pride thing. Got a checkout counter on her feet all day. It's a dead-end job, but you don't complain. With the kid at home, you do what you gotta do. When you're shopping for clothes at the second-hand store, it ain't about folk, it's making sure that they've always got enough to get them through. Well, about reaching for the big brass ring. It's about working for what you need. You know what I mean. Yeah, and it's a pride thing. Yep. And what keeps you going when the going's tough? And when you fall down, what picks you up? Working 14 years down a nickel mine wasn't exactly what he had in mind, but when the shift is done, he leaves it all behind. He's got a beautiful girl and a couple of kids. He's their world and they're his, and it ain't a little thing when you've got peace of mind. Well, this ain't no story about chasing dreams. Ain't about reaching for the big brass ring. It's about working for what you need. You know what I mean. Yeah, this ain't no song about chasing dreams. Ain't about reaching out for big brass rings. It's about working for what you need. You know what I mean. Yeah, and it's a pride thing. Yeah, and it's a pride thing.